So Tim, yeah, thank you for giving up some time to speak with us today and just kind of share some of your insight. In a time like this, the global economy is perhaps in question to some people, and it's probably safe to say that there's no better time for any company right now to kind of look at savings and save money. So knowing that you work at Sherwood Forest and knowing a little bit about your background, when there'd be no better person to speak to, and just kind of see what you're seeing and get your opinion. So I know that Sherwood Forest has worked with some Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies, and so yeah, you have significant experience across multiple industries. But we also know you don't only work with Fortune 500 companies. You work with all sizes and shapes. So if you would just start us off and tell us a little bit about Sherwood Forest, tell us a bit about you and kind of your business model and I guess the areas that you guys focus on.
Great. I appreciate the chance to talk about our business. I'm a preacher's kid from a little town in northern Minnesota, Crookston, Minnesota. It was a great place to grow up. Went to college in Minnesota at a little Lutheran liberal arts college up in Moorhead, Minnesota, and met my wife there. And we've been married now. This fall will be 30 years. Pretty exciting.
Wow, it's impressive.
4 children, 1 son and 3 daughters. And I founded Sherwood Forest in 1995, so 25 years ago. And I'd love to say that I had a great business plan for what I was going to do and that I had all of these benchmarks established for how I was going to be successful, but that isn't the case. We recognized an opportunity in the marketplace to use information that was publicly available to help customers leverage better pricing and terms with vendors. And the approach has always been that our clients probably have compelling reasons for using the vendors that they have. That's why they use them. Our job is to make sure that those vendors are providing our clients with the best pricing and terms that they qualify for. And in most cases, they are not. Sometimes they are, but usually there's room for improvement. And so we work with the client by providing business intelligence, because we work with so many companies. We worked with over 100 of the Fortune 500
Wow.
in the last 25 years, but more importantly, literally thousands of companies, small and mid-cap companies, privately held, a lot of them, most of them. And we go in and we're able to very quickly identify in 6 different expense categories whether or not they're getting the best pricing in terms that they qualify for from their vendor. It's really important, though, Gary, to remember that it's not our job to change our customers. Our customers have ongoing businesses, successful businesses, where they're providing goods or services to their customers. They've done fine without us. So it's not really our job to change them. It's our job to validate the pricing and terms that they're getting. And if there's room for improvement, let's go get it. And I would say that probably one of the proudest moments is when we go through the results with a client. And I always like to say, okay, what's your margin on the goods or services that you provide? And if they say, well, 10% or 15%, maybe it's a lot higher. We have publicly traded companies that work at a 4% margin or a 3% margin. So if we drop $1 million or $2 million or $5 million on their bottom line by renegotiating a contract or multiple contracts with vendors, what does that represent in terms of overall revenue to the company? How many of your products would you have to sell? What kind of top line revenue do you have to generate to get that kind of bottom line impact? And that gets pretty interesting. So that's how we operate. Again, we assume our clients have compelling reasons for using their vendors, and it's our job just to make sure that they're getting all of the benefits that are available from that vendor.
For sure. And what I think we love the most about it is that, and I don't know how attractive it is to companies, I would assume it's very attractive in that you're never asking for compensation. It's only, if we find you savings, we share in those savings.
Yep.
So it's kind of you have nothing to lose, which is great, especially now.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up too, because I grew up in a small town, and I had a paper route starting in third grade. And then other jobs I had, I rode to sunflowers, which is you walk up and down rows of sunflowers in the sunflower field, and you cut out the sunflowers that don't belong there. I can tell you, when you go to bed at night after doing that all day, you close your eyes and all you see is sunflowers.
Sure.
And I worked at a welding shop for many years in the summers. The guy that owned the welding shop was a great business mentor for me. And I learned the value of a dollar. And we've been very blessed with our business. We've worked with a lot of companies. We've saved them millions and millions of dollars. We have clients where we've reduced their expenses by over $50 million a year, one customer. Well, that's a big deal. But I've never forgotten what it takes to earn a dollar.
Sure.
And so by nature, I'm a little bit of a tightwad, I guess. I know my wife and kids would back me up on that. But I know what it takes to earn a dollar. And so when we're working with clients, and I know what it takes for them to earn a dollar, they know my viewpoint, my perspective. So we aren't ever going to charge a customer if we're not successful. And we might do a lot of legwork, we might do a lot of analysis, we might come back with some great recommendations, but if it doesn't yield measurable dollars that we can point to that weren't there before, if it doesn't yield that for the client, we don't get paid. And that should be comfort to the client that this is a risk-free proposition.
Absolutely. So that's probably a good segue. So in your experience, what kind of areas have you found are, where companies are able to save significant amount of money? And perhaps now's a good time to look at pre-COVID and pre the pandemic. And where do you think, if any, will there be more areas in the future where you could save companies money?
Well, that's a great question. The areas that we work in are what we call indirect expenses. And what I mean by that is we're not going into a manufacturer and helping them renegotiate their raw materials for the manufacturing that they do for the products that they make. What we can help them renegotiate or evaluate are their supply chain. For example, all the logistics that are involved in moving products into their plants or their final product to the customer. So that usually involves a small parcel, UPS or FedEx. Oftentimes involves LTL shipping, which is less than truckload, full truckload shipping, ocean, rail. All of those components in the movement of goods, there's great opportunities for cost savings. And it's not because the customer doesn't know what they're doing. It's just that they may not be aware of the best pricing in terms for those various modes that exist. And because we negotiate so many agreements, we're constantly in the marketplace. And the people that are our category experts in those areas, they have 30, 40 plus years of experience. They've forgotten more than most of the reps that represent the suppliers, and which is great. We've got a great team. So anything relating to moving products, logistics we'll call it, anything related to IT, which includes both software contracts as well as telecommunication services. And I'm going to try to answer this all at once, but you talked about what areas do we serve, and then pre-COVID, post-COVID. So more people are shopping from home than ever because the stores have been closed. That hasn't stopped people from shopping. So more volume in the small parcel and the LTL and the freight and the shipping. So those costs are going to increase. And as the costs increase, we need to be really closely monitoring them and making sure that our customers are getting the best pricing in terms that they qualify for. Same thing on the IT side, software and software services, as well as telecommunication services, are more important than ever because people are working from home. We're doing this interview from our home.
Sure.
And so those services, the need for them and the cost for them is going to increase as people are using more of it. So we're working in those areas. So I mentioned logistics, telecommunications, and IT. We also work in print and packaging. That cost continues to go up. I think folks assume that print would go away with the computers, but that isn't the case. There's still a lot of promotional materials, a lot of labels, a lot of packaging, a lot of catalogs that companies are printing. And we have tremendous expertise in helping customers make sure that they're getting the best pricing and terms in that area.
Sure.
And then finally, we do a lot of work on the financial side. What I mean by that is bank fees and credit card processing fees. Because people are shopping from home, there's a lot more card not present transactions where you're not swiping a card, you're entering your card information. A lot of companies are doing credit card, receiving credit card payment for their services from other businesses. So B2B transactions, those tend to be areas where customers can save money on those costs. And the bank fees are for the cash transactions that take place, or the ACH transfers. All of those items that show up on the account analysis statement, we evaluate those for clients and help them reduce those. So if it's an indirect expense, generally speaking, we probably touch it.
Sure. In the last couple of years, or over the duration of the company, have you found any area that when you identify a potential area of savings for a customer, they are totally like, wow, I didn't even know I could save money doing that? Has there been any specific area that kind of catches people by surprise?
Well, that was a question out of the blue. I wasn't prepared for that. I would say that the answer is yes, but it's not so much that the customer wasn't aware that they spent money in that area.
Sure.
It's that they felt that they had the best pricing in terms that they qualify for. I'll give you a really good example. We have a wonderful client in the Midwest. They happen to be an organic spice company. And the CEO is just an unbelievable guy and has built a terrific company, surrounded himself with great people. And we did a project for him, and then I was introduced to him by his sister. We did a project for him, went really, really well, and he said, what other areas can you help us with? And I said, we should really take a look at your small parcel. And he was like, I negotiated that agreement, and I'm a pretty good negotiator. I don't think there's any meat on that bone. And I said, okay, well, we should take a look at it anyway. And he was like, let's look at other stuff. It took me 5 years to get him to agree. Yeah, patience pays off in this business.
Sure.
5 years, and when he finally let us look at it, it was a high six-figure annual reduction on an expense that was I guess at the time it was probably a $3 million expense. We found a bunch of money for them, and he was really surprised. And I just explained to him, it really doesn't have anything to do with your talent or your intelligence. The fact is because we see so many agreements, we have more perfect market knowledge than our clients do. We're not smarter than them, and I certainly couldn't do his job. Sure. But for these niche specific expense areas, we have way more information, and we also have all of the 25 years of experience in knowing what strategies are effective in securing these savings without blowing up your relationship with your service provider. And so it would make sense that we would be able to find money there, but it really was getting past, very candidly, his ego that, look, I've been doing this, and he's very successful. If I had his job, I'd have a huge ego too. I'm not saying he does, but
sure.
You have to have a certain amount of ego to be a leader and run an organization. And sometimes that's a little bit of a surprise to very accomplished business people, that there might be someone that can do that one thing a little bit better. So,
sure. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. So kind of lastly, and this is just kind of a general question, obviously all the companies across the world, and obviously specifically in the United States, have had to make some kind of adaptation in terms of their workforce. We've just been forced to, right? So what have you seen that companies have had to adapt to in this pandemic? And what do you think is going to stick from what we've learned now kind of going into the future, just generally speaking?
Yeah, and by the way, I don't pretend to know what the future holds, and I'm with most people. This is a very surprising time, right?
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of very unexpected things have happened, and we're still kind of finding our way. So I want to be real clear. I don't know any more than anyone else does, and I'm as surprised as anyone else is that we're seeing the things that we're seeing. But I would say that some of the things that I'm expecting, I expect that, and this has been, by the way, this has been reflected in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, some other periodicals. I don't think that the workforce is going to return to the office setting to the degree and the level that it was prior to the pandemic. And I don't think it's necessarily for health reasons. I think what companies have seen is that their people can be productive and they can operate their businesses without everybody being in an office where everyone has to drive there, everyone has to park, right? Everyone has to go out to eat. And nothing wrong with that. I think it's great if you have a good office setting and people like to go there. But I'm going to say that I don't see that coming back to the level it was before. And so that might have an impact on a lot of businesses. It would have an impact on the folks in the commercial real estate business. It'd have impact on folks that have parking garages, folks that provide food to the workers in those, office parks, and the companies that have financed those buildings. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I will close by saying that we had a very robust economy going into this pandemic. And I have tremendous confidence in our country, and I have tremendous confidence in the industrious nature of our business people. Absolutely. So provided that folks will not be afraid, and we live in a time of fear, don't be afraid. Yeah. And if we operate from that perspective, one of confidence and calm, and we unleash the pent up anxiety, I guess, maybe, but the desire to get back to normal. I don't know what normal will look like, but I know I'm with a lot of people. Let's go. Let's do what we've done in the past and build this up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and just offering your insight. I really hope that everyone that watches this and has a listen can take something out of it. And we're obviously excited to see where you take Sherwood Forest for the next 25 years. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it very much, Gary. Blessings to you and the folks down south. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right.